It's no secret that Duntov was itching to race at Le Mans the second he punched his first time card at Chevrolet. With the success at the SR1 and SR2 Corvettes, it was pretty clear that the Corvette wasn't going to be canceled anytime soon. The Corvette name had pushed its way onto the world scene, a complete underdog, fought for and earned respectability in one of the most grueling endurance races around. The Corvette was to be taken seriously from now on. However, if the Corvette was ever going to be competitive against capable GT cars like Ferrari, they were going to have to go beyond what a factory production Corvette could ever provide. They needed to redesign a Corvette race car from scratch. Duntov and his team went on to design and build a Corvette that could take on the world at Le Mans. But first, they had to win at Sebring. Thus, they began Project XP64, otherwise known as the Corvette SS. You know, when it came to Grand Touring cars back in the 50s and 60s, the European car manufacturers had things figured out. One of the most notable manufacturers back in the day, and today for that matter, was Mercedes-Benz, and one of their most capable cars was the 300 SL. Arguably the world's first supercar, the 300 SL was like nothing else out there at the time. The 300 SL was built on a tubular frame. The body was steel with aluminum doors, hood, trunk lid, and dash. Because of the structure of the steel space frame, the doors opened gullwing style, powered by a fuel-injected dual overhead cam inline 6 that made a little over 220 horsepower in stock form. In racing trim, I would guess was somewhere in the 300 range. The suspension featured your typical short, long arm setup with a swing arm suspension for the rear. This was about as close to a four-wheel independent suspension you'll get without actually having one. Either way, it made for a pretty good handling car and a good race car. It was the chassis of the 300 SL that caught Duntov's attention. So, in August of '56, Chevrolet acquired a 300 SL to use as a template for the chassis of the SS. They had 6 months. Over a steel space frame, they laid magnesium body panels that was reminiscent of the street car, but only slightly. This body was built for high speed and low aerodynamic drag. The car sat on a coilover front suspension and a de Dion rear axle with inboard mounted aluminum drum brakes. Under the hood resided an aluminum-headed 283 with a bumpy Duntov cam and topped with Chevrolet's Ramjet mechanical fuel injection system. It produced 310 horsepower. They built 2 cars, the magnesium-bodied race car and a fiberglass-bodied test mule. It was the mule that got the most track time before the race. It was obvious that the mule was more dialed in than the full race car, so whatever issues the race car suffered, they would address them with parts from the mule. However, in the end, the SS only made it 23 laps before it was retired with overheating and then chassis problems. In spite of the mechanical failures, the SS had shown itself to be a true threat on the track against the European entries. If Chevrolet could get the car dialed in for Le Mans, it would be one hell of a competition. Chevrolet building race cars is nothing new. Many automobile manufacturers participated in several forms of auto racing. To be honest, racing is what made our cars what they are today. From the aerodynamics to tire technology to safety, all came about from the need to go faster, sponsored by the automotive manufacturers. They want the best equipment and the best drivers, and that makes for fierce competition, so much so that it can culminate in huge crashes from time to time. Don't get me wrong, crashes happen all the time in racing, but every now and then, as speeds rise and push components to their max, something normally gives, a major safety component, tires, you name it, and it leads to a major overhaul of equipment or a previous ruling. There was a major crash during the 1955 Le Mans that sent large pieces of debris into the stands, killing 84 people and injuring 120. That crash caused Mercedes-Benz to withdraw from their factory backing until 1987. Then, in 1957, During the Grand National Virginia 500, a driver from Mercury crashed through the Martinsville Speedway fence, killing 5 spectators, including an 8-year-old boy. It was at that moment that the Big Three, Ford, Chrysler, and GM, felt that their financial backing may be contributing to the increased competition that led to the heinous crashes and unnecessary loss of life. Earlier that same year, the Automobile Manufacturers Association stated that their members should become less involved in motorsports. The crash in Virginia was the catalyst to cause the Big Three to withdraw from racing altogether. GM's withdrawal virtually killed the Corvette SS program. That meant no competition at Le Mans for Duntov and Team Corvette. After the decision to withdraw from competition, the Corvette SS spent a few years in storage, although it came out in 1959 to the opening of the Daytona Motor Speedway, where it set the fastest lap with a speed of 155 miles an hour with Duntov behind the wheel. Sometime after that, the Corvette SS was donated to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum, while the Corvette SS Mule was sold to GM Vice President of Styling Bill Mitchell for $1. It was given a new body and renamed the Stingray Racer. Its iconic styling proved to be the forerunner for the looks of the second-generation Corvette. In spite of the AMA agreement, the Stingray Racer competed in 1959 and 1960, bringing home an STCA National Championship. It's currently owned by GM Design Studio.